did it, and through all those lessons received the blessings he had been working and hoping to achieve for his entire career. It also became a blessing for the sport and all of the people who have come to love and enjoy the game of curling. In times of trouble, a well-meaning friend may counsel us. Just count your blessings. Look on the bright side. Concentrate on the good things in life. Look away from the bad. The world is always eager to count blessings. How blessed are they with the fine house, the classy car, the high-tech gadgets to play with, and what a good-looking bunch their family is. Even those who have little in the way of material goods are quick to count in some various conspicuous ways what blessings they do have. How else to explain the exorbitant prices charged for certain designer basketball shoes? One person's pair of Air Jordans is another person's Mercedes-Benz. There's something to be said about counting our blessings, but there's something also to be said about looking at times where we didn't feel blessed, looking at times where we struggled, looking at times where it would have been real hard-pressed for us to find some semblance of the idea of being blessed in those times, much like John Schuster and how he felt multiple times before he finally got the blessing he'd been looking for in that Olympic gold medal. We've all been there. We've all had times where we've struggled and we can't find a lot of good to think about, especially in the moment when we come to those places. Oscar Wilde once quipped, "In this world there are only two tragedies. One is not getting what one wants, the other is getting it." The wonder of God's power to bless is that it happens regardless of our circumstances. It was Helen Keller, the blind and deaf mute, who triumphed over her disabilities, who wisely pointed out, although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of overcoming of it. God's way of blessing us sometimes is not to remove the cause of our complaint, but to give us power to prevail over it. It's like the remark of the philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson. It is the wounded oyster that mends its shell with pearl. Who's to say what's a blessing and what's a curse in the great scheme of things? From our human perspective, what looks like the greatest of calamities may, in a God's eye view, really be our salvation. There's an old story, a true one, about a man who had a hard life. He was 7 years old. When he was 7 years old, his family was evicted from their home. When he was 9, his mother suddenly died. At 22, he lost his job as a store clerk. He'd always wanted to go to law school, but his education wasn't good enough. He went into business instead, and at age 23 became the partner in a small store. 3 years later, his partner died, leaving a huge debt that took him years to repay. At 28, he asked the woman he'd been courting for years to marry him. She said no. For a moment, his luck seemed to change. At 37, he was elected to Congress on his first try. But then 2 years later, he was voted out. At 41, his 4-year-old son died. At 45, he ran for the Senate and lost. At 47, he failed as a vice presidential candidate. At 49, he ran for Senate again and lost. Then at age 51, he was elected President of the United States. His name was Abraham Lincoln. Some people get all the breaks, don't you think? Romans 8:28 promises that all things work together for the good of those who love God. Somehow we've got to learn to trust that word, as hard as it may be to do at times. This article continues from Homiletics and says, when Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor, the hungry, and those who weep," he's bearing witness to the truth that God is in charge of creation and that God isn't finished with us yet. God will inevitably bless us if we have faith. God may bless us someday with what we most desire, or perhaps more likely, God may bless us through what we desire but don't receive. And God may take that experience and use it to build us up later when we have other opportunities to achieve the things that we want to. Just like John Schuster and his failure after failure after failure before finally making the shot that got his dreams fulfilled, the dreams of his team and the dreams of our country as far as winning a gold for the curlers in the Olympics and representing our country. I'm going to close with a story about the idea of struggle and the idea of what that can do for us once we're able to have perspective, once we're able to put that struggle in context. A young boy came across a butterfly cocoon and brought it to his house. He watched over the course of hours as the butterfly struggled to break free from its confinement. It managed to create a small hole in the cocoon, but its body was too large to emerge. It tired and became still. Wanting to help the butterfly, the boy snipped a slit in the cocoon with a pair of scissors. But the butterfly was small, weak, and its wings crumpled. The boy expected the insect to take flight, but instead it could only drag its undeveloped body along the ground. It was incapable of flying. The boy, in his eagerness to help the butterfly, stunted its development. What he did not know was that the butterfly needed to go through the process of struggling against the cocoon to gain strength to fill its wings with blood. It was the struggle that made it stronger. And in context, why that struggle looks awful for that butterfly, that struggle is God's way of allowing the butterfly to have wings and fly. And in context, as we look at that struggle with this particular butterfly, we see that God used that later for something wonderful for the butterfly. Now, I think that this is a pretty deep topic when we talk about struggles. But I do believe that some struggles we face in life, and some of them that we inflict upon ourselves, by the way, I think that some of those struggles can make us stronger because God can help us learn and grow from them and use them to our advantage and His. Like the story of John Schuster and his struggles and failures, we can use those experiences to help others by giving perspective and sharing our struggles and being willing to tell others how we moved past them and use them to be better the next time. So some of those struggles we go through, even if we don't know what they mean, we don't know why we had to do that, we don't know what the purpose of it was. With time, sometimes perspective allows us to help others who might be experiencing some of those same struggles. And when we can say, hey, look, here's where I am, here's what God did for me, worst case scenario is we let those folks know that they aren't struggling alone. There is somebody who can relate. Maybe it's us. Maybe it's God. But they aren't fighting, they aren't struggling, they aren't going through whatever it is that they're going through alone. That's important when we think about blessings and who are blessed and whether it is our job to perhaps be a blessing for someone. Biblically, we see Jesus preach that message all the time. Whether it's trying to win a gold medal or like a butterfly struggling to free itself so its wings will develop and let it fly, or it's us just trying to get through the struggles of the last few years as we try to figure out how to deal with all of the things that have been going on in our world, with folks not being able to get along, with pandemics, with a vast number of things that we face that we've not had to face before. All of these places where there's struggle, it's good to know that God can take any circumstance and help us find ways to allow it to bless us and or others. If for no other reason, it is in that knowledge of God and the lengths He'll go to take care of us that should make us feel blessed. And if you can't find a way to know that through your faith and that through your trust in God, that God will be with you and take care of you through all of those struggles, through all the good times and all the bad times, if that idea of God and what He does for us doesn't make you feel blessed, then I don't know what will. Amen.
May the God of amazing grace give you eyes to see beauty everywhere, hands to do good to everyone, and hearts to bless all you meet. Amen.